So welcome everyone to the Society for Conservation Biology North America Region's first Conservation Education Forum. I'm your, I'm trying to be your moderator for today. There we go. My name is Martha Groom. I'm at the University of Washington, Bothell in Seattle, and I am the outgoing Vice President for Education for SCBNA. And I just want to introduce a little bit about SCBNA and then this forum. SCBNA is a professional society that's dedicated to advancing science and practice of conserving Earth's biological diversity. And we really are hoping that we help to have a world with thriving diversity of all living creatures and including all people. And we're trying to provide an environment that is welcoming, supportive, and empowering for a diverse suite of students and professionals to contribute and advance and apply conservation science. If you aren't a member, we'd love you to join us. So we have a nice QR code for this, and we can bring it back later as well. So as a representative of the Education Committee, our goal is really to help develop education resources and professional development opportunities. We do all kinds of different efforts, and this is our newest event. And we're hoping that this becomes a regular feature where educators come together to share practices and to get inspired and get new ideas. This was the result of a lot of work from the Education Committee, including myself, Jessica Pratt, who's the past chair, Erin Bentley, Renee Mukti, Marjorie Wanham, Zara Nanji, and Zach Moore. And most recently, we've been joined by Stephanie Clements, who is the new VP for Education. And so all the new ongoing work will be led by Stephanie. If you're interested in joining us, we're really excited to have new members. It's been fabulous. We have had a lot of new members this year, and it's really transformed what we do. So please join us. So today we have a packed agenda of two main sessions where we'll have flash presentations of 5 minutes each to just get a flavor where we all can see of all the different kinds of conservation modules that we have to share. We'll take a brief break to then assort as you wish into different working group breakout rooms to then be treated to an hour of learning about these opportunities in greater depth. And then we'll have a break and we'll repeat this process again. So here you can see all of the titles and the presenters, and we'll give you we'll present each of those right before each person shares with us all. While we can only attend one working group meeting at a time, one of the three, we are recording all of them, and those will be made available, so you'll have a chance to see these later as you wish. We're also very, very lucky to be able to start out with a keynote presentation and activity that's led by Nancy Lowe. I have to pull up my little chat window here, and I'm going to put into the chat Nancy's biography. Nancy's an artist with a passion for interdisciplinary collaboration, which I can completely self-verify from my own connections with her. Nancy focuses on the intersection of art and science, particularly in field research settings. She holds a BFA from the School of Art Institute of Chicago, and she leads the Ecotones Network for the arts at field stations and marine labs through the Organization of Biological Field Stations. For over 2 decades, she has taught art science workshops at colleges, universities, field stations, schools, museums, science centers, other institutions. And this year, she'll begin a Bullard Fellowship at Harvard Forest to make art about complexity and emergence and develop best practices for art science residencies. And in a moment, I'll also add her website into the chat. But for now, I'd like to turn this over to Nancy, and I will stop sharing my screen and give it over to you, Nancy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Martha. It's nice to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and start off the meeting with something that's a little bit different. You're not just going to be listening, we're going to be doing a little hands-on activity. And I want to give you an opportunity, if you don't have a piece of paper near you, like just a regular, sorry, the camera's doing funny things, just a sheet of paper, scrap paper, as well as a pencil, just an ordinary pencil and a pen. I'll give you a minute to go, through your office or wherever you're sitting and go find something. And I'll get started kind of slowly to give everybody time to do that. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and this is our little mini presentation for today. So we're just going to do a little 10-minute exercise to get our brains working in a little bit of a different way. And while you're doing it, think about ways that you might adapt this for working with students, whether you're working with undergraduate biology students, or you might be working at an environmental education center with the general public. This is a really great way to get people attuned to place and paying attention to their senses, and it involves drawing, but it's not at all challenging because you'll see in a minute it involves no skills whatsoever. Um, so what we're going to do is an exercise. This is my link to my website if you want to get in touch with me, and I'll share this with everybody later. We're going to do a little exercise called Artifacts of Attention. And it involves two components. The first one is you'll see this in ink, this very funky drawing that's on this little card done by a student at the Goodall Environmental Science Center at Wofford College in South Carolina. And the student did what's called a blind contour drawing. I'm going to explain that in a minute, in a pen. And then after a couple of minutes of very close observation and blind contour drawing, came back and wrote notes about what they noticed while they were drawing. So the notes might have to do with something they saw while drawing, but it also might be, I'm smelling something, or the wind I'm noticing, or birds, or something else like that. So you're going to need a piece of paper and a pen and a pencil. And we're just going to study this image on the following page. So this is what we're going to be looking at. We're not going to get started yet, but I just wanted to give you a little preview of what we're going to be looking at. And the first step is we're going to do this blind contour drawing. And the way you do that is you're going to take an object. I'm just going to grab something that's at my desk, and I'm going to look at the object. In this case, we're looking at the squid, but if you were doing this in your class, you might have a bone, or you might be outside in the field and ask students to look at a sapling or something in the environment. They're going to look at the object itself, but not at the paper. So you're drawing over here, but you're not watching your pen. It's very unnerving. With younger students, you have to do extra reminders to, like, don't look at your paper. But it's kind of fun, and you want to do it very slowly. So you're tracing every little innie and outie of what you see, like every little curve and angle and every little line, very, very slowly, like you're an ant crawling along the edges of that thing. So it's a really slow, attentive drawing. Remember not to look at the paper. It's very tempting to look at the paper, and you're drawing very, very slowly. So these are reminders when you're talking to your students or your general public visitors about doing this exercise. Remind them not to look at the paper, remind them to draw slowly and carefully. And the goal is not to produce something that looks accurate. The goal is to get you to look. And the nice thing is that your editor is shut off. You can't look at it and say, oh, I'm so bad at drawing. It's not about you at all. It's about your hand and your eye. It's just a direct line from your eye to your hand. The editor can't make any comments in your head. It looks like you drew it with your left foot if you're doing it right. So here's some examples of blind contour drawings that I did with a group of people in a park in Washington Square Park in New York City, the oldest tree in New York City. is an English elm. It's about 300 years old, and we were doing something to raise awareness about the tree, and different artists are brought in to have people draw. And we did a little blind contour drawing, and people would walk by and say, "Oh, no, no, I can't draw." I say, "Oh, this doesn't involve skills at all. You don't look at your paper. You just, and look, these other people are making these wonky drawings." And they're like, "Oh, I can do that, for 2 minutes." So it kind of like takes the pressure off. Okay, so we're going to start in pen. We're going to take about 3 minutes to draw this squid on your piece of paper. So, ready? Go. And don't look at your paper, only look at the squid itself. You can capture the outside lines. You can also capture some of those dots if you want, textures, places where there are changes of color or shadows. Just keep your pen moving. Some people say don't let your pen come up off the page. I don't really like rules about it. I just say just draw slowly, just draw carefully. And while you're drawing, be paying attention to your environment. If you're out in the woods, you might be hearing birds or hearing a stream or something. In this case, I'm hearing the refrigerator running. So I'm just going to be quiet for a few minutes while I just finish my drawing. Okay, wherever you are with it, let's just pause it and everybody hold up your drawing so we can see what it looked like. I'm not sure if the camera will capture mine. They're very odd, aren't they? Okay, so the second stage of this is now in pencil. Just write down some observations that you made while you were drawing. I made some observations about the texture of the squid, but I'm also hearing things in the background. And if you were in the field, you'd probably be hearing a lot of other things. So we're going to take just a few minutes to write down some observations and try to fill up your page with writing about what you observed. Okay, I'm just going to pause us there. Um, we only have about 10 minutes left. So, the nice thing about this exercise, and I want to hear people's feedback, which is why I sort of cut us off a little early. One of the things about blind contour drawing is that when so many of us do not have the skills to draw, and it has nothing to do with talent, it has to do with the fact that in the American school system, we stop teaching drawing at a very critical moment when our brains are ready for it. And so we just don't have the skills. A lot of us have a lot of shame around that. And so the nice thing about this exercise is that everybody's drawing looks wonky. It's supposed to look wonky. And so there's no judgment. It's really just about immersing yourself in the present moment and seeing this object or this organism or this habitat that's in front of you and really spending concentrated time with it. And the writing of the observations similarly brings the person who's doing this exercise into the present moment to listen and use all their senses to smell and but also to think and to wonder and write questions. So I find it to be a really useful sort of quick exercise when you're trying to, you have a group of students coming to a field station, or you want to bring your students outside and get them like really immersed in something. It only takes a few minutes. So I find it very useful. So I'd really be curious to know what folks thought about it. I'm going to stop my share and give us a few minutes to share what you experienced, and if you had any ideas about how you might use this in your work. And we have about 10 minutes for a little bit of a discussion. So if you can either raise your hand if you're on camera, or you can use the little hand raising, which is it under participants? I think it's under more. How do we
It
do
should
that?
be under React.
Under React.
If you click on
Okay.
React, it should give you the option to raise your hand.
So Bernie, maybe you can help me look for people who have their hands up. So yeah, just jump in. I'd like to hear people's feedback. Okay, Amanda, and you're muted, so there we go.
Hi.
Hi.
So this is actually a really cool activity that followed up with a lot of cool themes. I don't know if I have any Project Dragonfly folks in here, but I just got back from one of the expeditions to Thailand, which was all about Buddhism and conservation and how we can use mindfulness as a tool to create a connection to Earth, and therefore to create a connection to wanting to steward and care for the Earth. So I thought this was a really great activity that when I was writing and like drawing really brought me back to those moments of practicing mindfulness,
Yes.
to being connected to the world, to be connected to the moment, because we live in a society that is constantly focused on consumerism and making the next dollar and the next dime. And so I thought this was really cool to connect back. And if I can recommend a reading for anyone, if you haven't, Bells of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh is connected to a lot of those themes that I experienced, this idea of just living in the moment and being connected with Earth. So I thought this was super cool. I really appreciated it.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks for bringing up mindfulness. That's a really good point. Anybody else have a comment or anything they'd like to share? Yes, Suzanne.
Hi. I can just say that I've done something similar in training events or icebreakers where you pair someone up and you have them look at each other's faces.
Yes.
They don't know each other yet, but this is a sort of a icebreaker in a lot of
Yes.
ways to be able to. And then you have a portrait of the person,
Mm-hmm.
and then we put them up on the wall to have a gallery of all the people who are participating or in the class. Um, it's always it tends to be a crowd pleaser.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about how you might use this? Let's see, Deanne. Do I have that right? Diana.
Yeah, so I've led, outdoor hikes and with school groups and stuff, and they always seem to be very excited wanting to get out of the classroom, but just like excited and maybe a little overwhelmed of like the whole area and so much to see and everything. And I think this assignment right here is just really, really good to kind of get them to um, chill out a little bit and like
Mhm.
focus.
Yeah. Focus is something that we all need a little bit more of, right?
Yeah.
Let's see, Lindsay.
Hey, thanks. I am planning this weekend on leading like a low tide exploration with some students and sort of there's like the Beatles curriculum for beach exploration, and one of the pieces of that is journaling on one object and finding an object and journaling on it. And so this is great. I think I'm going to try it this weekend as like a way to guide their journaling to be a little bit closer of an observation, because I know like a lot of students are intimidated by drawing or like even writing and what kinds of things that so like this kind of combines both of those things, and I'm excited to try it. And I was wondering like what the youngest age that you've tried this activity with, or if anyone else has tried a similar activity, and if there's like a low end of the age group that you recommend.
I don't generally work with a lot of kids. I tend to work with high school and undergraduate, but I have worked with kids who are kind of like older elementary, middle school age. They seem to be able to follow the instructions. I think younger kids, and you all correct me, folks who've worked with really young kids, may not be able to do the focusing and not looking at your paper part. Some students that age are really interested in rule following, and others maybe not. And so I think it would be uneven. But I'd really love to hear your feedback about how that goes with younger students.
Yeah, it's like a pretty wide age range, so
Yeah,
I'm not sure how young students will be on the trip, but
give
I'll
it a
let you
try and tell me how it goes.
know.
Well, I don't see any other comments. So, yeah, I just want to let everybody know that I am doing a workshop this afternoon on, or later in the second session. The times are also different. Drawing in the biology classroom, lab, and field, which takes a deeper dive into some exercises for how to help students succeed when they're trying to do nature journaling or even attempt to do scientific illustration, drawing through a microscope or drawing dissection, to give you some tools to help students succeed at that. And it includes a lot of things that are super approachable like this, but has a little bit more technical information that might be in a sort of fundamental drawing class. So that's available to you, but you can always, the session's being recorded, so you can look at it later, and you can always contact me. I'm really interested in talking to folks who are teaching biology and trying to incorporate drawing as part of the skills that they're sharing with that. So I'll turn it over to Martha. And thanks everybody for your participation, being good sports.
Oh, thank you, Nancy. That was fun. And I think I'll treasure the squid or whatever it is. All right, well, I'm going to share my screen again briefly and just introduce quickly our three presenter groups for the first session. And then I'll let them each share about what they'll be sharing with all of us. So let me get the slides going. So again, our idea is that we have each presenter group provide a 5-minute overview of what they'll be doing in their workshop and what they have to offer and want to share with us all, that we all get to hear. And then we will move on into working group sessions where we can really dig in for an hour. So the first presentation, and the one which will be in breakout room 1, is from Lindsay Walker and Stephanie Bohr, Rooted in Play, Building and Adapting a Nature Toolkit for Early Learners. And then our next presenter is Richard Buchholz, and he will be talking with us about how do you help us decide the value of a species. Great question. And then the third group is Colin Pfeiffer and Amy Sherman. They're going to be sharing about carcass collectors studying bird window collisions at a community college. So with that, I'm going to stop my share and invite Lindsay and Stephanie to give us a 5-minute overview of your work.
I'm gonna have like a couple just intro slides that I can share too. So I'm gonna get my screen going here. Stephanie, if you want to introduce yourself while I get this going, that might take me a second.
Sure thing. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Stephanie Bohr. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Director of Learning Programs and Partnerships at Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle, Washington, and very excited to share a bit more about our project. But Lindsay, you introduce yourself first, and then we'll dive into a description of what we'll be chatting about this morning.
Yeah, can you all see the slideshow?
It looks like the notes version, but we can see the slide within that.
Hmm. Okay. Well, it's not super important.
We can go old school and I can hold up the actual.
Yeah, I know. I have mine too. Okay. So hi, my name is Lindsay Walker. My pronouns are she, her. I work for Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. And my background is in environmental education. I've been working in environmental education mostly in Washington over the last decade or so, doing marine science and sailing education for a while, a lot of like residential style programs and a lot of like other informal place-based programs. And my role at Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife is Conservation Education Coordinator. So we work with educators across Washington to support conservation education. We work with both formal and informal educators. We have several NGSS aligned curriculum projects, and then we also just support a lot of educators who want to incorporate more conservation education into their work, whether that's K through 12, and we also support family education across the state of Washington. And so we got to work with Stephanie Bohr on this project, mainly to help distribute the Nature Play Toolkit. And we use this toolkit a lot in our work and are excited to share how we've adapted it. And I'll pass it to Stephanie.
Sure. So we were very fortunate to receive a federal grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, or IMLS. Some of you in the informal education space have probably benefited from their support as well. And this project was really a collaboration both internally at the zoo across my teams who do programs for children and for families, as well as our guest engagement and volunteer team who have great experience running our early learning and nature play space here that's available for zoo guests and visitors. So a lot of internal work. And then what we are especially thrilled to kind of grow our own practice by collaborating with the Refugee Women's Association, or REWA, here in Seattle. And that is an organization that runs 3 early learning centers around the city, in addition to many other support services for families that are new to the area. And they have deep expertise in bilingual and bicultural early childhood education. So it was a great blend of the zoo's expertise in nature play and REWA's expertise with cultural responsiveness in education. So we created, the filters making it weird, but Lindsay, good timing. We created this ringed activity book based on the design preferences and inputs from our collaborators at REWA. And while it was intended for use with early childhood educators and caregivers of kids from 0 to 5, or birth to 5, I should say, we also have found a lot of uses for it, as Lindsay was saying, for all kinds of contexts, for meetings with staff, to work with teens, and Lindsay's team has really expanded that. So happy to share its foundations and beginnings as an early learning resource, and then all the ways that we feel very excited it can be applied for other settings and audience groups. I think that's it for our spiel.
Okay, thank you so much. That's awesome. All right, so I guess I should then call Richard Buckholtz, if you're welcome to take over the screen and share with us what you'll be talking about.
Yes, my students always make fun of me because I struggle with showing my screen. So let's see here. All right, now let's go for it. All right. You see my title slide? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I'm Rich Buckles. I'm in the Department of Biology at the University of Mississippi. I also direct our Center for Biodiversity and Conservation Research. And I've been teaching an introductory class in conservation biology for, I guess, 4 years now. And it's been a really exciting journey that I wanted to share with people. And I think what I've learned applies certainly, I think, to conservation in a high school setting, but I think there are things to be learned from asking students to decide the value of a species and then understand how their classmates may value things differently. And so in my presentation today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my class and the students that we have. We're a general biology department, and so there's a wide array of students with different interests in the class. And why it is that we pick up on this issue of value. And we talk about the fundamental sort of postulates of conservation biology. And for many of the students, that's a real surprise. And so many of them come in with ideas of value that apply to cute things like this lesser panda, this red panda, right? For most people, that cute little critter has a lot of value, but something like a mosquito doesn't, right? And so we talk with each other about different types of value, but also how our lived experiences, our backgrounds affects what we value when it comes to conservation. And, in my lifetime, I have seen bats go from hated by most people or feared by most people to loved by a lot of people. And the same with sharks, right? The Shark Week phenomenon has been phenomenal. And so I'm really encouraged if we can get people to talk more about why they value species and any sort of misunderstandings about that, then we can get more support for conservation. So what I'll talk about is how I incorporate a species values survey into my class, in which I present students with information about species and then ask them to assign value to those species. And then students have the opportunity to discuss that, right? To discuss why they placed value on certain species and not on others, and to sort of exchange their value systems and level of knowledge with other students in the class. And then one of the things I do is sort of weave this into subsequent parts of the course where we talk about species that have specific values that everyone would agree on, like these mussels and their ability to keep the water clean, but then introduce some things that people maybe didn't know about those species that affects their preconceived notions about what at face value we should assign value to versus to what we may have predisposed biases to. And in this case, mussels happen to be parasites in part of their life cycle. And so what I hope we'll do is talk about the kind of assignments that, okay, something's not showing up here. There we go. The kind of assignments that I ask my students to do. And I'd be really happy to hear from other people about any ideas they have about how they would incorporate this into their class and what new assignments or discussion they might weave into an activity like this. So I'll go through the sort of characteristics of my class, how I feel this value assignment fits into the topics that we cover in the course, and then run through some examples. I'm going to ask you to value some species, and then tell you more about how I sort of introduce this twist on the end where mussels are not everything students think they are. So yeah, I think that's it.
That's lovely. Thank you. That's wonderful. All right. So we have one final flash presentation, flash preview from Colin Pfeiffer and Amy Sherman. Turn it over to the two of you.
Okay. Amy just told me she's having unstable internet right this moment, but I think she'll be back. Um, Amy, are you there?
I think so.
Okay. And can I get a thumbs up? Does everyone ever see the Carcass Collectors slides? Okay. Thank you, Martha. Great. I will introduce my colleague, Amy Sherman. My name is Colin Pfeiffer, and I'm going to let Amy kind of introduce and walk us through these first few slides for our preview of Carcass Collectors.
Good morning, everyone, or afternoon. I'm Amy Sherman. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a recent graduate from Portland State University, and I'm also a queer science communicator. And so Colin and I have kind of been working on this presentation for a while about the Carcass Collectors. And I don't know, Colin, if you'd like to give yourself a little bit of an introduction as well.
For sure. My name's Colin Pfeiffer. I use he, him. I'm a biology instructor at Lane Community College, which is in Eugene, Oregon. So just down the hill from University of Oregon, right? And I had the pleasure of having Amy as a student, and we've been collaborating ever since then. So I'm very proud of her recent graduate from just in June as well. So we have that.
All right, so what we present is that bird window collisions are an excellent way to present a class-based research experience for undergraduates where they get to do hands-on research and they do place-based research by monitoring on-campus collisions.
For sure. And this is a project that I started several years ago. And Amy was one of the students who participated in this project with me. She, of course, was a student. And one of the challenges of being a community college instructor is I have great students, but I have very little funding. And it turns out carcasses are free. And so this seemed like a place where I could start as an undergraduate research experience for all of my students. I wanted them to have that as something to consider. I will also say, if you like puns, we try to have a lot of puns in our slides. So,
As Colin said, one of the benefits is that this curriculum doesn't require expensive equipment. I think when we went out, we had a clipboard and a ruler and a piece of paper and a pencil. So all fairly standard items. It is very flexible. It is place-based. And because it's so flexible and adaptable, it even applies to online courses, which I think a lot of students are showing a lot of interest in, especially in this COVID, post-COVID world. But it also has the ability to empower students who might never take another science class to feel like they actually did real research and they contributed to conservation in their local community. And it does stick, I believe, because it's personal and it's on their campus and it's with the data that they collect.
yeah, and I would add that was one of my goals as a scientist was to bring something that was really place-based for students and have them participate in something. And so part of our presentation will have we have a folder of the rubrics we developed, examples of student work, kind of the management, the practical part of doing a class-based research project with a messy data set and how to work with students in a community college, which means I have someone who's 16 years old and I'm going to have someone who's 68 years old and they're going to be in the same class. It's where you start or restart, as I say, and kind of talk about that piece as well. So that's an important piece. I think we're just trying to give also free access to the templates and tools that we've developed that I think could be appropriate for this project, but also for any other kind of a class-based research experience. Do we have one more? Is that it? There we have one more. I think this is our last slide, but.
Yeah, and then we were able to take all of the data from the 6 terms and analyze that further and determine real world solutions for where on campus, which buildings by direction would be the most effective locations to prevent bird window collisions going forward. And it also gave us the ability to advocate for different construction materials when the campus looked towards adding new buildings.
Yeah, so that's us. We'll be sharing that. We'll be hopefully not a show, but actually a discussion. What I like, and like I say, I have those tools and templates available throughout the presentation, and we'll kind of pull those up, and we'll go back and forth between my experience as instructor and Amy's experience as a student, and then how she's deepened and broadened and moved beyond that, right? So those are what we wanted to be able to share with you today.
Again, fabulous. Thanks all of you so much. This is really interesting. And I would love to figure out where the birds are hitting in our campus as well. So that's a great idea. So I first, just before we move into breakout rooms, I wanted just to see if there are any general questions that folks have for our three presenter groups. Feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand. So then a good question. Will every breakout room be recorded? And yes, it will. A member of the education committee is going to be in every room, and we will make sure that they are recorded. And then there'll probably be a little bit of a delay before we get it all up and available for everyone. But yeah, if you're like me, you don't know how to choose. If you're not, you'll be able to go back and see them later, which will be a nice option. And it also can share beyond the folks who could be here today. Yeah, Nova.
It might have already been said as well, but where would I be able to find these videos?
They will be hosted on the SCBNA website for the Conservation Committee, and we will share that at the end of the day, and Bernie and I will create a slide because you're so right, you need to know that. So we'll make that happen. Thank you. And I think many people are also up for sharing some of their materials as well. And so what we can host there, we will. Or where you could find it. Great. Anything else? Okay. Then let me just refresh my slides and I will show you how to get to the next spot. So let me share. All right. So Bernie, and I should have introduced Bernie Traviseri is the general. Oh, you have a wonderful title, and I'm going to mess it up. I will say Bernie is the person who makes everything happen for the Society of Conservation Biology North America region, and also is himself a really committed informal educator and has been an ex officio member of this committee and a key part of creating this. So among his special gifts is making all this stuff happen. So Bernie has created breakout rooms, and we'll share those out shortly. And we ask you just to self-assign, go to whichever one you would like to. Breakout room 1 will be Lindsay Walker and Stephanie Bohr, so Rooted in Play. 2 will be Rickard Buckles, so how do we value a species? And 3 will be Colin Piper and Amy Sherman on carcass collecting. So we're going to really get going at 11. We recommend that all of you presenters go into your breakout rooms, get them comfy and cozy the way you like them. And others, I recommend standing up and stretching your body and things like that. So you have a little bit of a break before we dive into the workshops. So see you soon somewhere in a breakout room close to you. All right. So before we continue with some overview presentations that I'll give us a heads up on, I'm really excited that I think all of this fine work inspires me, how much I have to learn from others and how much I have benefited in the past from using this particular resource. And so I'd like to introduce Suzanne Macy from the Center of Biodiversity Conservation at the American Museum of Natural History, who leads the Network for Conservation Educators and Practitioners there. And Suzanne, I don't know if you want to share your screen. Should I stop share, or do you want to speak from this slide?
I'll share my screen. I have a couple of slides.
Awesome. Okay, go for it.
I'm just going to need permission. Looks like. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Should be good to go.
Great. Okay. So yeah, I just want to quickly tell you a little bit, if you haven't heard of the Network of Conservation Educators and Practitioners, NCEP for short. We're so excited to be hearing all about these resources that you're using in the classroom and the conversation that can be used around it. Just so you know, there is a resource for you online of over 180 published peer-reviewed educational resources for the conservation classroom or on conservation topics. So I really highly encourage you to check out our database. A colleague is putting a link in the chat for you directly to our materials, and on our homepage, you'll see this button to see the modules. In addition to these resources that we have available, free, open access, adapt them, use them, cut them up, insert things. So we really want you to use them as they make sense in your course context and update them to, current events, all of those things. We also want to let you know that there's another advance doesn't work. I'm going to do it this way. Another sort of resource available to you called Lessons in Conservation, which is our online journal. So this is a collection of resources that we published, the most recent resources that have been published. We just had an issue come out in early May or late April. I can't remember now. Oh, it says April. There we go, late April. And here's just an example of the table of contents of the types of activities that other folks like yourself have been publishing. Our authors are conservation professionals and educators and people working for NGOs and all sorts. So I encourage you to take a look at our journal. And again, the link is there for you. And then with all of these materials, especially in Lessons in Conservation, there's a student-facing document that's a little bit more like, publication journal formatted. But in addition to those sort of PDFs, there are the adaptable Word versions available on our online database for the students and also for the instructors. So on our online database, our online collection, we encourage you to register as an educator. Again, everything is free and open access, but we do have registration required to get the educator materials, which could include the data files or presentations, teaching notes, facilitation tips, exercise solutions. And so for every Lessons in Conservation publication, we have these additional supporting materials. And the online collection looks a little bit something like this. And you can search by different topics, languages, types of exercises that you might be interested in doing. Here is where there'll be that option, hyperlink to register as a educator. There's also some links at the top here that bring you to the other things that the Network of Conservation Educators and Practitioners does. For example, we host training events as well for educators, and over the years we've reached over 5,000 educators. We have one, for example, coming up on Friday that is highlighting one of the most recent publications of in our Lessons in Conservation. It's all about having students analyze real data, community science data on a restoration project in New York City on oysters, and sort of translating what are in these official reports from nonprofit organizations and what is the data they show, and then looking at the raw data and really understanding the process that conservation practitioners go through in order to present the results of the study they might be doing. So if you're interested in that, we hope to see you there, but we just highly encourage you to check out our resources. And with that in mind, I should go back a little bit. We're listening today. I've heard 3 great presentations so far and workshop about resources. And so if this is inspiring you to share your resources as well, for those who are presenting today and tomorrow, or for those who have examples in their catalog that they use in their own classrooms, and you're interested in sharing it in a peer-reviewed publication format, we're interested in hearing from you. So please email us at nsup.inh.org. And you could either, submit something for consideration for publication or become a reviewer and get involved in different ways. And with that, I'll just end my little introduction, say thank you, and I'm happy to talk to anyone either offline or throughout this today and tomorrow as time permits. I also wanted to say a shout out to Martha, who was a co-editor of the most recent issue of Lessons in Conservation, and very indebted to her hard work on that issue, and very thankful for all her expertise she brought to the process. And I'll stop sharing.
Thanks, Suzanne. I really do want to encourage you, if you haven't already discovered these resources, to wander around in there. There's a lot of stuff, and also really to think about an opportunity here to share beyond our conference right now to others through this opportunity. It's the most specialized on conservation that's out there, and these folks are wonderful to work with. All right, I am going to just introduce the next 3 presenters. And so I am going to share my slides again, and we can get going for more. So the next set, we get, as Nancy said in her intro, in her Keystone presentation, she has a workshop on drawing as a tool for learning in the conservation classroom. So you can join her if you're ready for more. And then I've been working with Jessica Pratt, Brendan Reed, and Matthew Knope in cultivating allyship among conservation students and practitioners. And then our last one for today is Heather Kraus, who is able to share about creating a whole conservation discovery series. So with that, I'm going to stop share and invite Nancy first to give us a little preview of her presentation. Then I'll do the one for our group, and then Heather will do hers.
Great. Okay, thank you. All right, so just a quick little teaser about the workshop today. And I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention that when Suzanne presented all those wonderful resources from AMNH, I noticed that in the Lessons for Conservation that there was an article about using field journaling to increase observation skills, which is essentially what my workshop is about. So there are just all kinds of reasons why drawing is a tool that can help with student learning, helping them to increase their observation, generate questions, encourage further exploration. There are papers to back up all of these claims, and I can share those papers with you. One of the most interesting things to me is this very last point, that it makes learning explicit. So when you ask students to draw something, if they're not seeing something that's important, it may be that the drawing actually helps to bring out for the educator as well as for the student, like, oh, I didn't realize that was an important aspect, is important character or a key character for identification, or something that sets this species apart from another, or it helps to point out a structure function relationship, or an evolutionary relationship or something. So having students draw, whether you're talking about nature journaling in the field, or drawing from dissection, or drawing through a microscope, or just drawing even conceptually, is a great way to add to their learning. There's a wonderful article in Scientific American from a few years ago from Jennifer Landon, who teaches at NC State, about using drawing as a tool for learning in the classroom in EEB sort of like settings. I would encourage you to read that article. There's also a lot of wonderful student drawings in that article. And she also teaches scientific illustration there. So when you are, as an educator, asking students to draw something through a microscope, which is something really common I've found in biology classes, you may not have the tools to help them succeed at it, or if they ask questions about like, why can't I make this look right, or what am I doing wrong, or can you give me some tips about being more successful at this? This little workshop that I'm going to give is going to give you just some very concrete fundamental drawing tools that'll help you do that a little bit better. So that is going to be, I think, in breakout room 1. Is that correct, Martha? And yeah, I hope to see some of you there. And I'll unshare. Okay.
All right, thanks so much. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. And a different one. So over in breakout room 2, we're going to be talking about how we can go about cultivating allyship among our conservation students or among conservation practitioners. And we start with a premise that conservation absolutely needs to do a better job of welcoming people of all identities into the conservation workforce. Conservation remains less diverse than the population at large, and that's pretty much true anywhere you want to go. And this is not only inequitable, but it is also ineffective. We are losing perspectives, insights, capacities that would greatly improve conservation practice. But to truly expand to be a field that has and holds people of all identities, we really need people to feel welcome. We need them to feel they belong. We need them to feel that they are seen, supported, safe. But the conditions of our society, maybe we're feeling that especially these days, and our field exclude people actively and passively, and it makes them unsafe psychologically and sometimes even physically. So in that backdrop, people need folk to be acting as allies. And the key point is acting, actually trying to do things. And it doesn't matter what your identities are, what you hold. There are always others who hold differing identities, and there are ways in which you may be able to be of use and of help and support. And so this is important that we help people. This isn't something that's necessarily learned already. So, you know, we need to help it change, and we need to become effective at this. But we need both the awareness and skills to support other people. And we need to figure out how can we use our privilege to make space, make things safer, make conditions for all to thrive. So the 4 of us, led by Brendan initially, he got the rest of us involved, created a set of curricula that's grew out of the Society of Conservation Biology's allyship program, and that's seeking to promote an understanding of the diversity of challenges that people whose identities have been traditionally undertapped within conservation to dominant groups, people from dominant groups, to then think about how can they better support minoritized groups based on those new understandings. So that underpins a lot of what we're going to talk about. We're going to show you the set of allyship group videos that have been created. There's 6 different conservationists thus far who are showcased. They each hold different identities. They respond to interview-style questions, and they share their experiences and reflections. This is an important way to bring this into a classroom, especially if you hold an identity that's very dominant. I am a white woman from a middle-class socioeconomic background. I'm cisgendered. And although I have a hearing disability, you can't see it. So I hold a lot of privilege. It's helpful for me to bring voices right into my classroom. There are two different versions that we have worked with. One is an open discussion, personal reflection, in which videos were watched together. And those were all first tried at the University of Hawaii at Hilo that Matt and Brendan did design together. There's several iterations of this that they've done, undergraduate and graduate level courses, pretty small classes, 10 to 24 students, all from the same major or program. And then Jessica and I created a slightly different version, which is a jigsaw discussion. They watch the videos before class and they come to class. And we have two different levels. Mine was an undergrad class, 50 students, mixed majors and non-majors. And Jessica's is a graduate course with 22 students, all from the same program. We have a load of learning objectives that we agreed on together. And so specific to the exercises that we were creating is that students will have a better understanding of the diversity of experiences within biodiversity conservation, that students would find commonalities with their own experiences and those that they're learning about within this field, and that they'd also become more familiar with strategies, techniques that they might use to act as an ally. We also see these as coming in, to broader goals that we have for our courses or programs. We want our students to appreciate the value of and threats to human cultural diversity and the importance of human cultural diversity and inclusion and conservation. A lot of you nodded when I said this is really critical to actually conservation practice. That's what we want all of our students to do. And then also gaining capacity to engage in challenging conversations. This comes up in a lot of different ways, and here's one way that it does. So the workshop will have more detailed descriptions of the two versions of our curriculum. We'll give a bit of an overview of some of the things that came out from our initial trials here of this curriculum. We have some suggestions from additional resources. And then, we are going to try to make it halvesies. We'll present for about half the time, and the other half, we'd like you to have a chance to brainstorm, how might I add this? Or how can I share with you the stuff that I do that's really rad? And we'd love to hear it. For everyone, we will make these eventually available to everyone. We hope that you are already or will get excited about the spirit of this curriculum and using materials like this in what you teach. That said, the current status of this project is we're writing it. And we are working to publish an overview, which is kind of a perspective with some materials attached to student-facing exercises and one sort of instructor guidance that provides like ideas and options that would be freely available through NCEP. And with that, I will stop. And encourage Heather to.
Okay, I'm going to hopefully share my screen. So I am Heather Krause. I am the education coordinator at Nemours Wildlife Foundation, which is a foundation in South Carolina. And I'm going to be talking about how to create a conservation discovery series. And really, a conservation discovery series, as I see it, can be pretty much possibilities endless. It could be geared towards youth, it could be geared towards families, more for adults. It could have a very broad focus where you're just trying to get people to have more of an awareness just about the general flora and fauna of the place where they live, because maybe they moved there recently. That's something that is really happening in South Carolina in particular. There is constantly people growing in the coast, and we always have new people moving in and don't know about the cultural resources, the wildlife resources that are now part of their home. Or it could be very narrow and geared maybe to talking specifically about a particular ecosystem, and it might be virtual, in person, or hybrid, and lots of different ways to get people participating and involved in experiencing nature. But I'm going to be talking about the Nemours Discovery Series, and this one is specifically adult focused. And we have it set up that it's offered once a month, and it's really just an introductory series that's supposed to whet people's appetites for a particular ecosystem, a particular habitat, a particular animal, and it revolves around the seasons for the most part. Um, so some of these topics really don't make sense to be taught throughout the year. So I try and pair them with what we're going to be actually actively seeing when we're going out and doing these field explorations, whether that be bird life, wildflowers blooming, butterflies emerging, that kind of stuff. And so with the series, I'll talk a little bit about the creation of our Discovery series, what I've learned from doing this. And this is still very new for our organization too. So still in the process of honestly test piloting out some of these programs as this program as it's happening. But something I always like to end my programs with is a quote by David Attenborough: "No one will protect what they don't care about, and no one will care about what they've never experienced." And so that's really my goal in creating this Discovery series. And hopefully, for the people that tune in to Breakout Room 3, we'll work through kind of brainstorming some ways that you might implement some of these things in your place, in your organization as well. So I'll keep it nice and short, but that's it for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great. Well, so once again, we just have a few minutes to break now and head into a different breakout room. So again, breakout room 1 is Nancy Lowe. Breakout room 2 is myself and colleagues, and breakout room 3 is Heather. So please feel free to join your own adventure, and we'll then reconvene in an hour as a larger group.
Thank you, Martha. I'll introduce myself quick because I haven't had a chance to do that yet. It's really nice to meet you all. I'm Stephanie Clements. I'm the new Vice President of Education for the Society for Conservation Biology North America. And I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for being part of our first ever education forum. I think today has been an amazing day with a lot of fantastic conversation. So I really appreciate you all engaging and being open and having great dialogue with each other, bringing your whole selves to the conversations. It's really been a joy learning alongside all of you today. Um, a big thank you to all of our presenters for taking the time to present today, and of course to Martha and to our whole education committee for the planning, and Bernie, of course, for all of the planning that went into this. So I wanted to say to please consider saving the date for NACCR. I think we have a slide for that.
We do, but before that, I had this slide, which is just a preview of tomorrow.
A reminder to join us tomorrow. Perfect. Thanks,
There's a
Martha.
lot of cool stuff. And then also just our group has spoken a little bit. We do have this break session again in the same structure as today. So if you want to keep a conversation going from before, feel free to message us, and we'll make sure that there's space for that. Okay.
Awesome. Yes, and then I wanted to say to please save the date for the North American Congress for Conservation and Restoration. And so this is going to be July 12th through 16th, and we would love to have you all join us at the conference. It'll be a great time, and we will keep these sorts of conversations going through education programming during this conference. And so we would really love to have you all be a part of that. I believe we're also looking for folks to join the organizing committee for it too, right? So if that is something that anybody is interested in, we would love to have your help with that as well. And so I would love to, as Martha said, kind of open the floor to see if anybody has any closing thoughts from today. Now that I think went through the main announcements, unless I'm missing anything, but would love to hear folks' thoughts, and any kind of closing remarks from others that were part of the day today. I can't see people's faces, so I don't know if anyone has things to share. Do we want to stop the screen share and see if anybody has anything to share? There's the faces. All right. Does anybody have any closing thoughts from today? Anything that anyone would like to share? Richard.
Yeah, there was something I forgot to mention during my presentation, and I think it's important to bring up. So in my conservation biology class, which I sort of inherited from a previous professor, um, he he banned use of any electronic devices unless students required an accommodation. And I would not have thought in this day and age that would be possible to get away with, but I continued the tradition. And students are a bit shocked at first, but I would say overall the reception is really positive. Students find in the classroom the electronics are really distracting for them. And I've developed a citizen science app. That's one of the projects I work on. And I think, you know, I'm not a Luddite. I'm not obviously not anti-electronics, but I think having sort of periods without electronics gives students time for contemplation, for concentration, for discussion. And so creating time with and time without, I would really encourage people to think about that, even outdoors, right? We often have this sort of, screen time versus green time dichotomy, but I think both are possible if sort of scheduled, right? Give people time with it and time away from it. That's all.
That's great. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Richard. Anybody else have any? Oh, Heather.
Yeah, just what a thrill. We've been talking about the Society for Conservation Biology and wanting to reach out to educators in our CCNet group. That's the group of us that teaches conservation standards in academia for some time. So just being able to be a part of this and hearing all of this, I've followed AMNH's materials and the network's materials for years, and just it's always a thrill, and it's why it's rare. It feels like this is a rare opportunity, and I'm not quite sure why that is, but just incredibly grateful to be here. And I learned a lot today, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Heather. On the note of this being a rare opportunity, that does remind me that we are looking to plan additional education-related events, and we would really love to get your feedback through a post-event survey to kind of help us with that planning. And I'll turn it over to Martha to share a bit more on that.
Hi, here we have a QR code. We'll show this at the end of the day tomorrow as well. But if you're only going to be with us today, we'd love your feedback on the format, what we've just done, because we think we are onto something that we want to continue. So love your feedback on that. Also for things that we could do in the coming year, including at the NACCR. We share what you just said, Heather. I feel like we don't have enough opportunities, and over time, it's been really exciting to see the education community in SCB become more active, more connected. And we feel like this is a space to do that. I also absolutely adore that we have K-12, higher ed, informal ed, training of professionals all in this same group. And often that we get hived off into one little group or another. And so I think it's really important that we connect up in this way. So we'd love your feedback, but you can also wait and do this tomorrow. We'll put this up tomorrow as well. I do wonder then maybe we could end early for anybody who would like to have an easier afternoon and use the energy to come back tomorrow. And also for our particular group, I'd be delighted to go back into our breakout room if anybody wanted to chat right now. But either way works well. I'm so jazzed to have you all here today. This has been great. Thank you so much for the sharing, for the conversations, and knowing that we have a day tomorrow is super exciting. So thank you all. I'm going to stop my share.